because when I came home after 8 years, I paroled out to my brother's walk-in closet.
I still got 3 years of parole left.
Hi, I'm Kevin Harrington. I'm an original shark from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and I'm here with Brendan. We've got a big event happening this fall in Kansas City, and I'm going to be there. I know you're going to be there, Brendan. Let's tell the folks all about it so we can get them there too.
Are you letting fear, doubt, insecurities, what other people think stop you? Are you ready to get to the next level of your life? That's what we do. Go on over to ComeChangeYourLife.com, see what's going on. We have events all over, but we have a powerful event coming up this fall where Kevin is going to be speaking. So if you want to come meet him, you want to come meet me and my team, come on, ComeChangeYourLife.com. Hey guys, we are here. Welcome to From Felon to Fabulous. Great show. Man, I met our guest while I was teaching a workshop in Omaha, Nebraska. So you never know where you're going to meet people. I'm Brenda Ringwood. This is the fabulous Miss Isabel Black. And we can't say felon fabulous because she's actually not a felon, but she sure understands the process.
Yes, I do. And I love a lot of felons. So I know that being a felon is just a part of your story, something you did, but it's not who you are. So I love hearing these stories, sharing space with these people who are turning that experience into something fabulous.
And it was just a mistake. It was not a life sentence. And
Right.
unfortunately, the way that the public sees felons at times, it's a life sentence. We're always having to explain or talk about or justify. And actually, my circle, yourself included, said, stop it.
Right.
No more.
Right.
And I took that to heart, and here we are.
Exactly. You're owning your queendom. And
That's
I
right.
love it. I love it.
So let's welcome Manifest. Hello, Manifest.
Hey,
Can
Manifest.
you guys hear me and see me okay?
We can. So you live in Omaha. How did you get there?
I am currently residing in Omaha, Nebraska, and first and foremost, we have to begin by giving respect to all those who came before us. So Sifa and Adama Baba will see that gives a respect, and then returning that same love, respect, and energy to you, Brenda Ringwood, and you, the beautiful Izzy. So you
Thank you.
guys are hosting a phenomenal podcast. And what I'm loving about this platform is everyone on here in their own capacity is a healer.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually sitting in my math workshop, tutoring with math, in the same room where I met you, Miss Brenda. So I'm right now currently at the MCC South Campus in the Mahoney building. The TRIO program has helped me to realign to kind of direct some things of me pressing forward. But in that session, we were sitting and we were discussing the protractor. Now, I never knew this, and this kind of leads into my story. You guys can kind of direct me if I get off task.
That's
But
okay.
this kind of leads into my story. The protractor, I was learning the different degrees. For years, I have been drawing this symbol of a line with an arc on top. For me, it was the sun rising over the horizons. Been using this symbol for years. Didn't know until today I was actually calculating the rays of the sun is the protractor.
Oh, wow.
Been drawing with that tool for years.
That's
So
cool.
in that discussion or in that conversation came to find out that I'm actually what my numbers represent in that protractor is that I'm a nurturer and a healer, and I have the energy that makes people feel invited or welcomed.
Nice.
So welcome,
Yeah.
welcome.
Awesome. Thank you
Mabuye,
for that.
welcome. So now I'm looking at my lives, looking back over that 30-day challenge that I did for gratitude for the BTBY Public Speaking Speaking Academy.
Which he just
And
graduated from.
Congratulations.
yay! Thank you.
Yay.
And I'm realizing now that the things that I've been, pun intended, manifesting have been in alignment all along, even though I physically wasn't in alignment all along.
Mhm.
So when I started out my journey, I'm going to take you back to the early 70s. My mother had remarried, did not have a healthy relationship with my biological father. So she remarried a minister, and I was about the age of 3. So the majority of my early childhood in that home was a really strict Pentecostal upbringing. And in that upbringing, we had services every day of the week, 7 days of the week. Church was open in some capacity. My mother took her, now it's 11 of us, but at that time, she took her 6 kids and put us in an environment where she had a protractor. I didn't know how much she was investing into us at that time. Just seems like mama always had money, but we were struggling. We were pretty much poor. Didn't know it because she didn't let us in on that. She created an environment where we could thrive. So we started out being like straight A students, honor roll. That projector had Bible stories on it, so we learned how the different stories in the Bible. And then we also had devotion, which means the King James Version was the Bible that we had in that home. And that's how she taught us how to read. As we grew a little bit older, she started her Hallelujah band. So in her Hallelujah band, she was like, you're going to play this instrument, you're going to play. And she assigned us instruments. I did not want the saxophone. I wanted a bass guitar or a piano. She's like, no, you are going to play the saxophone. I'm like, I can't even get a note out of it. So fast forward a little bit to my middle school years or my early teen, preteen years is when everything started to go haywire. I was living, we had moved to Arkansas, Monticello, Arkansas. We went to a church. I'll put the good before the bad. We went to a church. I could not play Amazing Grace, could not read the music. The piano player was playing in a different key than I had learned it in. And it was in that moment that my ear started to pick up sound or vibration. Cliff note for those taking notes: music or vibrations, sound and frequency is your original language. Not English, not Chinese, not Spanish, not whatever tongue language you're speaking. Your original language is sound, music. So my ear began to pick up on vibrations. And I taught myself the saxophone through listening. Okay, now back into the story.
That's cool.
So thank you. So I'm actually in 5th grade, I believe. Yeah, 5th grade. And there was like 3 smartest people in the class.
Nice.
Two other ones were female. So I started liking, and this female started liking me. During that time, we were in Arkansas. She was Caucasian. I was Black. Her father was a prominent member of the community. He was not going for it. My first introduction to racism. My mother had always taught us never look at us as better than anyone else, but never look at anyone else as better than us. So this was instilled in me growing up until I hit public schools. They wanted to expel me from school in the 5th grade for dating a white girl. Then I also witnessed the influential empowerment of my mother. She went and talked to that faculty and was like, you are not kicking my son out of school. Their feelings for each other was mutual. If they're not allowed to date, that's fine, but you're not expelling him for it. So that was my introduction to I'm Black in a white man's world. The world is out to get me, me against the world. I started to find not the best of association and company. I found where I thought that I fit as an outcast was in the streets. So a lot of the people around me either was dealing with gangs, drugs, violence, prostitution, things of that nature. So my mother, she kind of got worried for me because I'm running away from home at 13 years old, trying to be on my own. So she gave me a one-way ticket to go visit my biological father in New Mexico. I haven't told the story in years. You guys are the first. So she sends me to New Mexico to stay with my biological father.
What part of New Mexico?
We started in Hobbs.
Hobbs.
And then we moved from Hobbs through Roswell up to Santa Fe. And then I made my home to Santa Fe. He made sure that I got back in school because I had dropped out in the 9th grade. He made sure that I got back in school. He also started teaching me the responsibilities of manhood. But my mother had already taught us as kids how to be self-sufficient. You're going to learn how to sew, earn your own clothes, fix your own food. You're going to know how to take care of yourself.
Right.
So the analogy is eagles. They're young, get kicked out of the nest. You got to learn how to fly.
Right.
So that's pretty much me growing up in my mother's home was you will learn how to fly or splat. So when I got to my father's, I swear I started to find interest in like drum majoring. They put me in sports, in track, football, but I didn't really like that. I liked the drum majoring. I liked the music. I liked the theater and drama. So I
Mm-hmm.
started enhancing my skills that I now use as a performer or entertainer, edutainer, because I always like to educate while I entertain.
Yes.
Yeah. So when I left my father, I was only 17. So the Army recruiter said he couldn't take me at 17, but he could take me at 18.
Okay.
My father was opposed to this. So what do? I run away. But
Mm.
this time I ran away back to Oregon. My mother wasn't having it. She had a few more kids that came along. So you're going to go back to school. So I went to night school and I actually got my diploma in night school.
Good.
So as I'm leaving, thank you. So as I'm leaving from my diploma in night school, the following month, I'm going back to Albuquerque, New Mexico, because now I belong to Uncle Sam.
Okay.
Now, all this time during my teenage years going into the military, I had totally self-destructed and didn't even know it. It's amazing how when you're in your mess and in your trauma, you think you're on the top of the world and you think you're excelling at the best that you can be, but
Right.
really you're going down a downward spiral and not even knowing it. Even before the military, I could have already been classified as PTS.
Okay.
And I don't say PTS because D stands for disorder, but there is order in disorder. So
Yes.
you got to remove the DIS to heal.
And words are
So
important.
this is a lifelong, yes, a lifelong journey of healing that we're talking about here. But at the time, I didn't know it.
Right.
At the time, I was running in the streets. I got into the military. I ran to the military to escape the church. No, that's too strict. Heaven or hell. I had already developed an addiction of not having healthy boundaries, whether it was drugs, alcohol, sex, it didn't matter. I was young and I was wild. I was out there. So the military, the beautiful thing about it is it taught me the discipline and to not run. If I want to do it, you're going to complete it. But what it also taught me was how to become a killer. But it was okay to be a killer because I'm killing for my country and for my God and for my community. But I'm still being trained to be a killer. So when I get out of the military, fast forward to about 94, around that time, I was stationed in Germany and I came across this. I was learning about the autobiography of Malcolm X. Wasn't becoming a Muslim, but I knew the importance of breaking ties with my slave name and my slave mentality. So I'm flipping through the Bible and I'm at Colossians chapter 1, I believe it was verse 26. He said, I will make my truth manifest to my saints. There's manifest. Born Hollis James Dunlap Jr., now being reborn in a new likeness, like being baptized. That's why we use the dove in some of my trainings. A new awakening. So manifest to common in Hollis Narjal entity. He will manifest into the flesh. Tincomanin, the king, which we now have our democratic society from in America, was actually a king in Ghana, and they called him the king of wisdom. He introduced democracy to government. And then Hollis means to be a true friend, and it came from my father, so I kept it. And then Narjal meant internal peace. So now I'm taking a journey within instead of trying to fix everything without. I knew the change was going to have to come within. And the entity is to give the respect or that energy and love back to God, the creator. Manifest entity.
So how long have you been going by the name Manifest?
94.
Wow. Okay. Did you legally change your name, or is it just
in 1994? It was legally changed.
Wow.
So that's what, 30 years now.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah, so I've been manifest for 30 years. What I did not know is that manifest also meant that you would go through hell
Mm-hmm.
Right.
in understanding and coming to know yourself in this new journey of your life. So I got out of the military, spiraled back into my addictions, found myself incarcerated within 2 years of getting out of the military.
Wow. How old were you?
24, I
Wow.
believe.
Still very young.
I was incarcerated in 96. I don't know the math right now, but I was born in 71, incarcerated by 1996.
Okay.
So I was somewhere in my early 20s.
Mm.
My stepmother, bless her soul, Brenda, she and my father came to visit me when I first got incarcerated. She brought a book, didn't know nothing about personal development, didn't want nothing to do with no personal development because I had it all figured out, right? She had a book released to me in my cell, which was unheard of because I was just coming in, but they allowed this. That's why there's
Yeah,
no
that
access.
doesn't happen.
The book was entitled "It's Not Over Until You Win." The author was
Wow.
Mm. Now, Izzy knows how that goes with not having books in a cell because she was a CO.
yes.
She was a
So
correctional
I
officer.
had
She knows
"It's
that's a
Not
big
Over."
deal.
Yes. So I had "It's Not Over Until You Win" by Les Brown, and of course they give you a Bible. So I love Proverbs, 1 Corinthians 13, Matthew 7. I love these, but now I have Les Brown being introduced into my life. So as I began to, I wouldn't even say read it. I consumed it. I just like, you know how something is so good you can't get enough of it?
Right.
I, yes, I was into that book. As I began to take my journey through incarceration, they started opening up programs for cognitive restructuring, education. A communications class opened up. I hopped on it, graduated the
Took
communications class.
advantage of what you had.
Exactly.
Yeah. And when I graduated the communications class, I actually became the inmate student instructor to the facilitator of the communications class.
Nice.
Fast forwarding through that journey, I began to take web page design, law library, anything I could get my hands on, 3D, so computer literacy. I even started taking a typing class. I was also currently going through a divorce. My son was 18 months when I went in. The next time I would see my son, he would be getting ready to be married, 22
Wow.
years old. They took a trip across the country. He chose to make one of his stops, Omaha, Nebraska, so he could see his father before he got married.
That's nice.
I hadn't seen him since he was 18 months.
Wow. That's
Beautiful,
amazing.
yes, that I got to see him again. But where was I as his father throughout the course of his life?
Right.
I was repeating a cycle or generational curse of children being without a father.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
My daughter is now turning, I think, 33.
Okay.
My son in Germany, we're still looking for him because he was born after I was shipped back to the States.
Okay.
So I never got to meet him.
Hmm.
So here I am, a father with no relationships or ties to his children. And I'm incarcerated in a system that's designed to, if you use it, it can help you change your life. But if you can misuse it, it will become a repetitive cycle of you going
Right.
in and out, in and out, in and out. But while you're laying on that cot, you're figuring out what side of that equation you want to be on. So when I went to the law library, they had at that time cassette series, and you could put on the Walkmans and listen to the cassettes. Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And I
So
believe that's where
you believe in self-help and self-empowerment.
it all started.
Yeah.
Very good.
When I was
You were-
released in 2003,
Mhm.
I was on this internal journey, Narjal, the internal journey, and I began to find that even though I was changing, I call it resetting defaults, even though I was changing my
Mhm.
defaults,
Mhm.
life is different when you no longer have someone after 3 years, 4 years, 10 years, 20 years, however long you're incarcerated. By the time you're in there 6 months, somebody's telling you when you can eat, where you can
Mhm.
sleep, how much clothes you can have, what's contraband in your cell, and everything. So
Mhm.
you have become a product or adaptive to that environment.
Right.
Then 2003, they kick you out, and you have to figure all this: where I'm going to eat, where I'm going to sleep.
Right.
Um,
So tell us
I,
how much time did you serve in prison?
6 years.
6 years. Yeah, so
6 years.
tell us about what it looked like. That's one thing we do like to talk about here is the reintegration because the stories look so different. We've had some stories where they have great resources and they find what they need and all goes well with some hiccups, of course, but then we have people who are just left out to dry, and the stories we hear are heartbreaking of how they had to come reintegrate and how society treated them
Yeah.
and their community.
Yeah, we just celebrated, um, we called it Welcome Home, but it was for the Vietnam vets.
Okay.
Vietnam was back in the late 60s, early 70s,
Hmm.
and those soldiers were never welcomed back home. Kind of like incarceration.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Yeah, they
So,
were ashamed of, they were hated. My dad fought in Vietnam, and today we're telling people thank you for your service. Back then they were getting spit on.
they were getting spit on.
Mhm.
And sad to say that if they had the shade of skin that I had, they couldn't even go into restaurants or use public water fountains, stuff of that nature.
Mhm.
So you were being discriminated for a country that you were fighting and dying for.
Exactly.
Right. Wow.
Exactly.
So me coming up through an African American perspective is a little bit different because the odds were designed, they were called projects for a reason. We didn't
Mhm.
just grow up in the projects, they were designed as a project
Yeah.
to see how we would handle drug infestation and violence and prostitution and all the other things that go on in a project situation. So I lived that before I got
Mhm.
to jail. And then I lived that again in the army. And then I lived
Yeah.
it again in jail. And then I'm
Yeah.
being released from jail, having to
Back
figure out
into it.
how am I going to break this cycle.
Oof.
So tell us how you broke it.
Even
If there's
though
people
I
getting
might
out of
have left,
prison right now and they're in that situation, what would you say to them right now? How do they break it? What do they need? What's the
e-
most
even
important thing to
though
do?
even though I had left the church or the religion, I never left the spiritual connection to God. So the most important thing I can tell anybody coming out of any situation, because you can be released from prison and still be in prison to an
Yes.
addiction or whatever the case might be. You're going to have something that is larger than yourself, that knows about creation before you got to this planet and won't know about creation after you leave it. You're
Right.
going to have to be able to tap into that source or that higher power, they're calling it now. I call it
Right.
God.
Right.
From there, I began to, and if you're taking notes, it's called Speak Life to Peak Life. I began to speak life because the power of death and life is in your tongue. So if the world is against you, don't join the bandwagon. You already have enough people out there against you. Don't speak death and destruction over yourself. Speak life into you. And that's what I began to do. And I said, God, I want you to teach me how to love like you love, to believe like you believe, to have a work ethic like you have a work ethic, and to be
Right.
able to rest like you rest. Because on the seventh day, he rested. but I want to know how to become intimate. And that's where intimacy comes from. I want to learn how to become intimate, but I want to do it from a spiritual understanding and not a physical understanding, because that wasn't getting me anywhere. And it was repeating my cycle over and over again,
Yes.
getting in different relationships, and they're still not working out. And I'm still feeling betrayed or abandoned and abused and abusive. So the trauma was still there. So how do I break the trauma? So it became an internal thing. I was creating a vision environment and didn't even know I was creating a vision environment. I teach on it now, but I didn't know it at the time.
Okay.
I was doing vision boards when nobody even knew what a vision board was. I had already started creating vision boards because it was a part of my vision environment. So every room of my house had to reflect where I wanted to be and who I wanted to become.
Yes.
And then I just started to be okay with being alone. And when you self-love 2024 to all my manifestors out there, when you fall in love with yourself being alone and you're okay being alone, then when you arrive in a relationship, you're not going to find somebody that's broken. You're going to attract somebody that doesn't mind being alone because they're working on themselves too. That's a whole different conversation going on in that house.
And I want to add something to what you just said. You know, I know for myself, before I could really fall in love with myself, I had to fall in love with my creator. And that's what made me feel so worthy of loving myself to that depth, because I knew I was created in his image. I am his. So,
and since you brought it up, yes, you are created in his image. 2 quick points for those taking notes. Number 1, honor the Lord with the first fruits of all your increase. So if you got a spiritual side, 10%. Mental side, 10%. Physical side, 10%. Financial, relationship, parenting, whatever you have as an increase in your life, give him his 10% and honor him in that. First lesson. Lesson number 2, and very critical. He said, on these 2 commandments, all the commandments stand. Love your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Sounds kind of like the first point I just made. Now you have a mirror made in his image, relationship with your creator. And then love your neighbor as yourself. You can't love someone else hoping that they will love you enough to love yourself. You're out of alignment. There is always order. I don't care if it's chaos. There's always order to order.
Amen.
We'll get to that on another topic. I might share it on a Facebook Live, but there's always order. So love him. Your mirror becomes him teaching you to love you. And now that overflows. We're getting into the dove, so I won't go into that. But now that overflows from your cup overflowing, you can love just about anybody, whether they enemy, hater. They don't even know they your haters.
Right.
They just mad because they got to work on them. Watching you work on you means that their excuses are being eliminated.
Right. Exactly.
So you gonna show up or you gonna make excuses? So when does that vision, when does your value become more valuable to you than your excuses? And that's where the transformation begins. Doesn't happen overnight. I'm still changing. Yeah. I'm still growing.
It's an ongoing process.
The goal. Strive to continue to change.
And let me tell you, change is real, and it keeps evolving. And if you would have known me and Isabel even 2 years ago, our shows then to now are just completely different because we have learned the process, right? We've learned how to do, we've learned what to do when you first get started. There's a first for everybody. So don't be afraid of the first.
Right.
Don't be afraid
to show up.
And don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to make those mistakes and fail, because it's in that action of failing that you're learning out what to tweak, to reassess, to continue to grow. They have a saying now, and I joke because it's actually a spinoff of It's Complicated. So they have a saying now that life be lifing. So my response is change be changing too. So if
Yes.
life be lifing,
Life be
change
life
be
and change be
changing.
changing. Oh, I love it. And Isabel, there's something else. And I said that we met at Metropolitan Community College, but what I didn't tell you is he's actually a student. So here he told us he was born in 1971, which means he is in his 50s, right?
53 years old, back in college.
It's never too late.
No.
Never too late.
No.
Absolutely. And I commend you
Yeah.
for that.
So one thing I heard
It's when
consistently
you
in your story, real quick, was that you were always willing to utilize the resources that were being placed in front of you.
Mhm.
So that's really important also for the people
it's
to know.
because the good book says write the vision and make it plain. Write the vision and make it plain. You can't have a business without a business plan. And you'll hear people say it's in my head. I have it in my head, but I can't read your thoughts and you can't read mine. So until you write it down, I don't know what direction you want to go in. So you don't even know what resources. It goes back to the GPS philosophy. We can't even help you get to where you're going if you don't have a destination of where you're trying to go to.
Right.
So
Right.
since my vision is an environment, then I know I have to do this 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes priorities get realigned due to life and changing.
Right.
So I have to realign. So it says, okay, for you to make this next move, you're going to have to go back to school and you're going to get this.
Yeah.
But in the process of going back to school to get this, Trio said, why don't you go through our Trio program? And guess who I met in Trio's program?
Right.
And now I'm
Okay, you cut out. Say that again. You're
You
now
gotta
what?
say it again.
BTBY.
Yes. BTBY.
BTBY.
No coincidences.
No, never.
Not only that, he showed up and came and played a sax
Maybe
for
all-
us at Safe and Sound in Atchison.
That's where I met him, was at a Safe in His Arms revival. And he played the saxophone just beautifully. I was just in awe listening to him play, and just the energy you brought into the room, the kindness, like you said. You know, we stayed at the same hotel when we all got back and parked, and we were
You even
unloading our
helped me
car.
carry my bags up.
Yes, but you know, because you're just like a little light. I was like, oh, I was walking by. I'm like, let me see if he needs some help, you know. But you just made me feel that comfortable. So, I love that you've put in the work. I love that you have taken charge of your story and continue to pivot and grow and take on new things. I love that we met each other, and I can't wait to grow together some more at the next BTBY conference.
I'm looking to see you guys in Kansas City on Sunday for Father's Day. That's my Father's Day present to myself.
Nice. So we'll see you this weekend.
That's right. He's coming
If
up.
the Lord says the same.
And if
Absolutely.
you guys would like to meet him and you're
Yeah.
in Kansas City, let me know. I'll tell you where we'll be.
Yes, we'll be having some fun as we
Absolutely.
sharpen our speaker skills. As we said, you completed the BTBY Speaker Academy, and you get to come get some next level training, and along with some other speakers, graduates from the program. And we have a blast whenever we're together. So it's going to be fun, and we're definitely going to leave with have learned something new.
Yeah. So I have a question for you though. So you had kind of a rough upbringing. You ran away. You joined the service. You had to come back to complete high school. Do it online, or you said GED? How did you do it? GED?
No, night school.
That's right, night school. But you did that.
And I got a diploma.
Yes, you got a real diploma. So you had all these things happen. You had incarceration happen, but you're so positive. You're not bitter at all. Tell me about that.
Don't let me now be confused with me that we're talking about Okay, because even in this moment, I'm growing. So when we speak on Sunday at Father's Day, I will have grown from this conversation until then.
Very good.
So when you start a journey 30 years ago, that first, I'll say 15 years, is going to be rough. It's going to be, one must die for one to live.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
A seed starts off dead
So
before it
how
is
did you
given
shake
life.
off the negativity? How did
The
you shake off?
bitterness.
Repetition, repetition. When you're resetting your defaults, it's not easy in the beginning because your default says, go back to the toxicity. You're familiar with it. Go back to the drugs. Go back to the women. Go back to the alcohol. The system is designed for you to fail anyway. Just throw up your hands and give up.
Mhm.
So your self talk and that internal mind, that is probably the hardest war, the hardest battle any human being will ever fight. But being a human being also in that battleground is your greatness. And sometimes it takes losing some battles for you to start honing your skills and strengthening yourself to be able to overcome adversities and struggles. And then you spend another light on it, being a mirror of light, since she said I brought light. I was
Mhm.
reflecting the energy being given. So, being a mirror of light, you begin to say, I have to speak life over this situation because I see how horrible it is being homeless 4 times. I see how horrible it is being divorced twice. I see how horrible it is losing relationships with my biological children. And I didn't have a relationship with my biological father except for the couple of years when I was getting in trouble.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
Wow.
you see all this horrific stuff going on. But at
Mhm.
some point, if you don't begin to speak life into your situation, then the default that is in place is that you're never enough. You're not good enough. You're going to fail. People hate me. They're not going to accept me. But when you
Right.
start to understand the intimacy of self love and why I've dedicated the year of 2024 to self love and what that really entails, then you begin to see that it doesn't matter how bad you're hated because the balance of hate is love. So
Mhm.
that too is how much you are loved.
Mhm. Right.
So do you want to get sucked into the toxic hate or do you want to reflect the light of love? It's your choice.
I
Either way,
love
Light
you're
of
that.
right.
love.
Absolutely love
I
that.
chose love.
I
That's good.
chose love too. Talking about
Life
your
be life and
2024,
change be changing.
talking about your 2024 word and that you go by, your name is manifest, makes me think of my 2024 word of intentionality for this year was
Mm-hmm.
abundance. And I remember as I was praying and meditating, when that came to me, it was about October, November of last year. And because I was like, yeah, I'm ready for abundance, Lord. And he just really started showing me that it was, I had to take it deeper than that, because just like with manifestation and abundance, he showed me
Mm-hmm.
that I was very abundant in good and bad. I was, um, drama,
Abundance is abundance
gossip,
on both
you
sides.
know. So he's
Mm-hmm.
like, no, we're not seeking abundance. He said, you have to put that word in front of it, and it was divine abundance. It's of
Divine.
his abundance of his, what he wants to give to me from him. And I was like, wow, I was grateful for that message, but it now has me very intentional when I'm
Mm-hmm.
seeking the manifestation. It's happening anyway, but when I tap into it,
So
and
when you
stuff.
say divine abundance, that's what I say when I say overflow.
Mhm.
Overflow is divine abundance.
Nice. I
You're
like
on
that.
the beautiful path and continue on that path and let it overflow.
Mm.
Thank you. Thank you.
No,
Yes,
absolutely
Brenda.
love that.
This is the one with the crown, Miss Brand.
Well, I don't know about all that, but I will tell you I'm changing every day and I have my goals.
She
And my
saw it in
fam-
me before I saw it in
I
myself.
did. I saw it in you. That's right. And you
She
know, I
spoke
had
life
others,
into me.
but I had people do that to me. So I pay it
Hmm.
forward. And not only did I have people do that to
Great
me,
movie, by the way. Pay it forward. Go watch Pay It Forward.
yes, it
Okay,
is a
go
good
ahead.
movie. But I have people in my circle that help me to continue to be the best me, like Izzy, her husband, you know, people that I associate with. And it's not about money or status or where people live or what kind of car they drive or what they do for a living. It is about the person right here.
You put a post on Facebook that I stole from you.
That's
It
okay.
says, "Who's speaking of you in rooms that you are not currently in?" How does that
Mhm.
quote go?
Yeah. People are standing up for you in rooms that you're not in, not talking about you, but
Surround yourself with
standing you.
people
That's right.
who have you present in a room that you're not even currently in
That's
yet.
right.
They're already
That's
speaking
right.
life. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I will tell you how we actually got hooked up with E360 TV was just that. So I was in Chicago and I met 3-4 different people there, but I was never in Chicago during that time. So Terrence was there, so he was speaking about me.
Mm-hmm.
Prentice was there, so he was speaking about me. Chuck Prinzen was there, so he was speaking about me. And I met the lady, Michelle Mraz, who said, I feel like I already know you. Everybody said you got to meet Gwen. That's what you need. Those are the type of people you need to be around. And
Yeah.
so at that event was also Lauren Michael Harris's event, who were on with the E360 TV.
Yes. And that's how I felt was safe in his arms when I came to Atchison.
Yeah.
That was the energy that I felt.
Mm-hmm.
So I almost went into tears when I was playing, because when I play my saxophone, he gave me the gift. So that's my gift back to the heavens.
Amen. Amen.
And
Yes.
I almost started tearing up because it was like in that moment I was feeling his overflow of his love that I prayed for. But
Yes.
be careful what you
And
pray for,
you
because
also found a way to get there
nobody
and
can
make
love
that
like
happen.
God loves.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So let me tell you guys a little bit about how, you know, this is going. So he's in the veterans program at MCC, trying to get his degree, which he will get. Then we met. He signed up for the speaker class because he wants to be a speaker. He also came and performed, played his sax at an event. He's coming up to Kansas City. He's told you about books that he's been reading, the classes that he's been taking, and the importance of your circle. So I hope you guys are listening, because he's taking the steps. He's being intentional about his growth. That is how you become fabulous, even if you're not a felon. But if you are a felon, if you follow those steps, let me tell you, you can go from felon to fabulous too. So I
And let
encourage
me just say
everybody to
one
go over
final thing, Miss Brand. I just want to say this final thing. Because this is called Felon to Fabulous, it deals with incarceration.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, we as a society do not realize that you don't have to be incarcerated with bars and bricks
That's
to
right.
be incarcerated. You are in prison within your own situations and within your own mind. So Felon to Fabulous can be a transformation in your life once
Amen.
you choose to free yourself and make those intentional changes that are necessary. And I am humbled and grateful that you guys thought enough of me to have me as a guest on your show. I can see how empowering and how powerful a platform like this is. And we need to have more people sharing this type of love amidst all the chaos that there's still
You know
order
what?
with
I
it.
almost didn't do it because I had one of my haters cause a big problem, and Isabel knows all about it. And I just have this to say: thank you to the Maries of the world for lighting a fire under my rear end, because that's how we continue, is by taking all that negativity and spinning it back around. And this is what's come from it. So thank you. Thank you for fueling our fire. Turn that hate into love. Don't let it stop you.
And we sincerely sent love during that season. You know, Bren, you know, she would share her feelings of how it was making her feel internally during that. But we would always end with, but we're going to send her love, because
That's right.
we're not going to be her, you know, and it was
And
that
if you
love
look at Brenda,
that momentum.
if you look at Brenda Ringwood, if you cut at the end, Bren, Daring Wood is Brenda Ringwood. Don't dare her.
Oh.
Take out that crown and be on it.
Right.
Yes.
I'm gonna do the hula hoop with it.
Daring Wood.
But you
Oh,
know,
I
I
never
think
thought of that.
I think it was with that, you know, she didn't want to experience it, and we didn't want to
Yes.
see her experience it. But it was through that her people really surrounded her and reminded her who she is
Yes.
and how valuable she was to us. And because of that, she was able, sometimes we do have to rely on our tribe. Yes, we're strong in self-work and self-love, but we part of that, like you said, is the rest. Sometimes we're vulnerable and weak. We need
And
that tribe.
And if we give up, then we don't go to Trio in Omaha, Nebraska to meet a manifest.
Exactly.
That's right.
So we
And
don't
let
know moving forward whose life is going to be transformed
You
because
don't.
we didn't give up when it got tough.
That's
And
right.
it will get tough.
The thing that I love the most, and this is what I want everybody out there to listen to, your circle matters. And if your circle is not defending you, is not helping you, is not going through it with you, not checking on you, get a new circle.
Yeah.
Kick them out, man, because they aren't doing anything for you. See, your circle has to work both ways. You need to benefit them and they need to benefit you. And if that's not going on, I love, there was a post about it was in Africa where a wildebeest or something was getting eaten by a lion. And then here comes the rest of the wildebeest to save that. That's the circle you need.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to fight off them lions. Because if I didn't have them in my circle, I'm not so sure I would be doing this right now.
And if you don't know where to find these kind of people, like they just don't exist nowhere in your world, Becoming the Better You, BTBY, comechangeyourlife.com, Activate Your Power Now. Those are just two of the many. ActivateYourPowerNow.com. That's just two of the platforms that have tons of genuine people.
And don't be afraid to know that sometimes you have to change you before you can attract the circle that you need. Sometimes you have to be the first change in creating, get a new circle, right? Starting from the inside out.
Yes, you're going to you're going to attract what you are.
Yes. So change what you are, and you will see there's a lot of beautiful people out here waiting for you.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Thank you for having us into your life. Thank you for coming on to the show. And I'm going to play a few commercials and we will come back with you after all of that. So thank you. If you guys, how can people reach out to you if they want to talk to you?
They can either go to YouTube, is Manifest Entity on YouTube, or they can go to Facebook. I'm at Manifest at EG8impact.com. Manifest at EG8impact.com. But I'm the guy in the purple playing the saxophone on Facebook. And then from there, I can get you more information. Or 402-709-0958. But please text first because I won't recognize the number.
Okay, guys. Thank you. Get in touch with Manifest.
Or do you want to be the person that's helpful, that soothes, that loves? Because you can still stand tall and be as big as you want to be when you are this person.